Before I start, I just want to apologize for the audio quality. I was recording in my parents' basement and it was getting pretty loud because of the fan that turns on and stuff, but without further ado, here's the story. When you think of nostalgic TV shows from your childhood, what instantly comes to mind? SpongeBob, Arthur, or Hey Arnold? Perhaps it could be those educational shows like Sesame Street, Dora, or Blue's Clues. For me, it was a Saturday morning show called Playtime with Benny the Bunny. It ran on public access television in the late 1990s, around 1996 to 1997, if I recall correctly, when I was in first and second grade. I remember waking up early every Saturday morning just to watch this show. It was about this guy in a rabbit suit that wore makeup, named Benny, who often filmed from his living room set painted to look like a forest with trees on the walls and a rainbow painted over the ceiling. He would sit on a sofa and face the camera to talk to the audience about basic subjects like math, learning the alphabet, etc., etc. He would also have segments he called Playtime, or Storytime, as the title of the show suggests, where he would interact with the audience to join him in doing various activities like exercising with jumping jacks and running, or read stories and nursery rhymes like Goldilocks or the Itsy Bitsy Spider. I remember it looked very poorly made, consisting of only the painted living room and a sofa, filmed on a camcorder set up to face the couch. I never really understood most of the show, since Benny often spoke with a lisp or mumbled his speech, which made it difficult for me to hear what he was saying. However, as I've grown up, every time I get asked what my favorite show was as a kid, I usually hesitate and try to say like Rugrats or Power Rangers, but that show, Playtime with Benny the Bunny, would often pop in my head. And the more I've thought about it, the more bizarre and outright unsettling it was. For what I'm about to tell you might change the way you see things forever. You've been warned. It started on a summer afternoon. I had just got home from work. I leave my stuff at the table and take off my shoes as I sit down on the couch to watch some TV. I scrolled through the channels to see a bunch of those dumb reality shows like The Kardashians or Teen Mom, highlights from a football game yesterday, and the news, which had nothing interesting to report on. I continue to scroll through the channels, which I find to be completely dull and boring, when the doorbell suddenly rings. I get up surprised by it, as I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, I noticed a cardboard box with my name, Jason, written on black Sharpie that was duct taped to the box. This was particularly odd, as I've never ordered anything online recently, nor would I expect it to come in a cardboard box with nothing but my name written on it. I take it inside and prop it on the kitchen table. I grab a knife from the drawer to open up the package. When I opened it, I see 4 VHS tapes, all labeled with the name of the show that brought back so much memories. Playtime with Benny the Bunny. I found it strange since the show was on public access TV and never received any sort of home video release. Perhaps these could be recordings that someone had captured of the show when it aired back in the day. Attached to the first tape was a paper note that read, "To Jason, thank you for reaching out on such short notice. It means the world to me that you appreciate my show and the work I put in to entertain kids like you. In response to the many letters I receive each day, and by popular demand, I've decided I would like you to come on the show someday. We can play games, eat snacks, and just have a wonderful time together. I'm very eager to meet you and have some fun together. Your pal, Benny." Reading that just gave me the shivers. I never recall ever writing to Benny as a kid, even though I knew he was open to fan mail, which he would often display at the end of the show before the credits, and would sometimes invite a few lucky guests he selected at random. What confused me the most was how he was able to get my direct home address, since I moved out of my parents' house that I grew up in at the time of the show's airing when I attended college, and got a job many years ago. I'm not sure. Anyways, I decided to go into the basement and grab my VCR from storage that I used to watch movies on as a kid. I flicked on the light switch as the hum of the light bulb filled the room. I head towards the storage closet and open it as I dig through various items I have hidden away. After a couple of minutes of searching, I finally find my old CRT TV and VCR from my childhood. I pull out the box containing them from the closet as I slowly pulled out both the television and the tape player. I plug them into a nearby outlet as the humming of the TV enters my ear canal. That sound just brought back so much memories as watching movies on the good old-fashioned VHS player. I then go back upstairs to grab the box of tapes and head back downstairs to the newly set up television and tape player. I kneel down towards the tape player and press eject to check if there are any tapes I forgot to take out as a kid, and by coincidence, a copy of Toy Story that I never took out ejected off the player. I put the tape down to one side and reach into the box containing the recordings of Playtime with Benny. The tapes were all numbered on the side with each corresponding volume. Volume 1, Volume 2. I insert Volume 1 into the tape player while the sound of the player reading the tape continues to add more nostalgic memories. As the tape entered a black screen, the title card for the show appears written on the door. We then cut to the usual setup of Benny's sofa and the painted forest background when suddenly Benny's face comes on screen, which startles me for a second as he introduces himself to the audience in his usual high-pitched voice. "Hey kids, huh? Welcome back to Playtime with Benny, starring me, your old pal Benny," followed by a stock sound of children applauding. He then sits back down on the couch and continues to talk. "Today, we're going to learn the alphabet," he said as he continued to giggle. Benny stood back up to grab a CD player he had off screen and puts it next to him on the couch and pressed play. The sound of an upbeat instrumental began to play as Benny encouraged the audience to sing along with him. I didn't sing myself as I couldn't care less and was just surprised to see the show again in over 2 decades. After Benny finished singing the alphabet, he sat back down on the couch and asked the audience, "Wasn't that fun?" I didn't answer since I didn't really care at all. He then proceeded to open up some fan mail. I watched as Benny opened up letters and read them out loud, including one from a young boy named Ethan who wrote to Benny, saying how much the show made him smile and loved tuning in every week to see what new stories Benny had to tell. Benny pretended to act touched by the letter. He held it close to his chest as if he were hugging a person and pressed it to his lips, kissing it. I shrugged in annoyance from this, as I thought it was really strange seeing a grown adult man in a rabbit costume act so childish when reading a letter. He then began to tell a story about going on a journey to find his lost blankie, which bored the heck out of me sitting through this, so I decided to fast forward the tape to the end, when Benny then wished the audience good night as the credits began to roll, which is kind of surprising since the show appears to be run from someone's basement. The name Ronald Lewis showed up as the writer, director, and producer. I assume that must be the actor who played Benny. Anyways, it was an overall okay watch. Not the best, but did bring back some childhood memories. After ejecting the tape, I decided to watch Volume 2 out of curiosity. As I inserted the second tape, expecting another nostalgia trip was a far cry from what I ended up actually seeing. The second tape began rather odd compared to the straightforward introduction on the first tape. The screen went to black for a couple seconds, then the classic 1965 Screen Gems logo, or as some people have referred to it as, the S from Hell, appears on screen, which is kind of strange since Playtime with Benny never aired on syndicated television, nor was it around in the 1960s. After the weird inclusion of the Screen Gems logo, the screen cut to the usual introduction of the show's logo printed on the door as it swings open to reveal the usual setup. In this episode, Benny informed us it was his birthday and he was going to throw a huge party as he got up and performed a weird dance while singing happy birthday to himself. After performing his strange birthday dance, Benny then told us he brought some special guests to celebrate his birthday with. The camera panned over to show a door down the living room hallway, to which Benny got up from his couch, set up, and approached the door to open it. When he opened the door, 2 young children, a little boy and a little girl, came out of the door and followed Benny back to his couch setup as Benny then told the viewers to welcome them as he introduced them both. "Kids, I want to introduce you to my friends Todd and Sarah." The 2 kids waved at the camera as they smiled with a somewhat weirdness to their face like they had some kind of stage fright. Which isn't strange at all, because if that were me meeting Benny face to face, I would be ecstatic, my heart pounding off my chest. After Benny introduced them both, he then proceeded to interview the kids, asking them of their hobbies. "Say, what do you kiddos like to do?" Todd then replied enthusiastically, "I love watching cartoons and playing with toys." "What kind of cartoons and toys?" Benny responded. I like Tiny Toon and playing the Game Boy and Legos," said Todd. "Oh, that sounds fun. I love Game Boys and Legos too, you know," Benny said as he let out his signature giggle. "What about you, little lady?" he asked Sarah. Sarah hesitated for a moment and then replied with, I don't know. This somewhat confused Benny as he continued to question her. You don't know? You must know. Everyone's gotta have a favorite thing since that's what makes you, well, you. Sarah was still unsure of what to say. I don't know. I'm kinda nervous to say. Benny then reassured her. Oh, don't be shy. We're all friends here. It's okay to say. Benny then began to give some kind of speech about how it was okay to express your feelings, which was suddenly interrupted by some footage of someone filming themselves walking through a decrepit and run-down house. It's as if someone had filmed over the recording of the show. The footage showed someone walking through this house breathing heavily as he filmed the destroyed and burned furniture. This threw me off completely and kinda unsettled me a bit. Who was this person filming? And where was this being filmed? Doesn't look at all like Benny's place. The cameraman continued to walk through this tarnished home that looked like it was burned to a crisp. He opened the door that led to the basement and grabbed a flashlight from a nearby cupboard. As he slowly walked down the stairs, he began mumbling some kind of weird sentence in a very deep and gruff voice that I could not make out what he was saying, but it sounded something like, "Everything is going to find its place. Just relax and go with the flow." As he entered the basement, he bent down to pry a cellar door which led down a hole to which he climbed down the ladder. He continued to mumble more nonsense. This time it was, "He's still watching. Close your eyes. Still watching." He shone the flashlight over a tarp that appeared to cover some kind of object or thing. He then began to breathe uncontrollably as he slowly pulled down the tarp to reveal what almost looked like the rotting corpse of a young child. His eye sockets completely hollow as the inside of his skull can be seen and his lower jaw appeared to be torn off. Seeing this made me sick to my stomach, as what kind of sick and perverted psycho would film this shit? I nearly threw up when suddenly a loud scream made me jump out of my seat as the cameraman dropped his camera, which landed facing up towards the ceiling as he quickly ran off. I could barely catch a glimpse of his face, but it looked like what appeared to be a man in his 50s with gray hair and stubble on his face. It almost looked like the guy who portrayed Benny, but unmasked. No! That cannot be. There's no way Benny would do something like that. I might have been hallucinating that, but shit, that was fucking terrifying. Anyways, it then faded back to the show as Benny's face appeared to be noticeably agitated as the girl from earlier, Sarah, rambled on about how Barbies and Polly Pockets were her favorite toys in the world. She talked about how her favorite doll was a Malibu Barbie that she took with her everywhere she went, to the store, to school, to the beach, when Benny suddenly cut her off in a very gruff voice. Shut it! It sounded almost similar to that guy filming the body, which further made me suspicious of the person who portrayed Benny was. That name, Ronald Lewis, made me question who was actually playing Benny, and if that was him filming the body. As Benny cut off Sarah's speech about her Barbie dolls, Sarah questioned Benny about what he just said. Benny, what's wrong? I was just talking about my favorite dolls as you asked me earlier to. He cut her off once again more. You talk too much. It's about time I shut your little gob, sissy. Benny got up from his chair as he suddenly grabbed Sarah by the ear and continued to chastise her. I ought to teach you a lesson, bitch. The moment he called her a bitch really shocked me. There's no way they would have aired this on TV. This had to be an unreleased episode, or a parody even, because it's just not possible like a character such as Benny, who is supposed to entertain kids, would use such inappropriate language. What happened next really disturbed me. It then cut to what appeared to be Benny beating up Sarah as Todd was forced to watch it. He cried watching his sister get assaulted by this sick man in a bunny suit. He then stopped punching Sarah and approached the weeping Todd as he laughed in a very disturbed manner before bending down to his knees and unzipping his suit. He put both his knees on the poor Todd, pinning him to the ground as he put his chest close to Todd's, almost as if he were going to do something worse, before it faded to black. I ejected the tape, completely disturbed by what I just saw. Why was this lovable character I looked up to as a kid doing such vile things to innocent children? I wanted to stop and just turn off the TV and leave, but something drove me to put on the third tape. When I inserted the third tape, completely shaken by what I just saw, It only got worse from there, as the third tape opened on a completely bizarre setting. It was not the usual setup of Benny's living room with the couch, but what appeared to be a dimly lit dinner table surrounded what looked like a bunch of female mannequin dolls sitting around the table with two empty chairs. As Benny walked in with the two children, Todd and Sarah, they were looking very scared, as Todd appeared shirtless with visible bruises on his arm and chest, while Sarah was in a bathing suit and her lips and eyes were bruised. Seeing this made me want to puke even more. Benny was no innocent kid's character. He was a sick and disgusting pervert who did some unspeakable acts. It then cut to the kids duct taped to the chairs while Benny started singing what sounded like a really bad cover of David Bowie's classic song, Let's Dance. As he sang the lyric, "Put on your red shoes and dance the blues," he danced around the kids in a very flirtatious and obscene manner. Benny's singing was interrupted by Sarah in tears, pleading for Benny to stop and just let them go home. But Benny continued to sing as if he couldn't hear Sarah crying. Her tears began to grow louder when Benny stopped singing and appeared to kind of threaten them, as he said something along the lines of, "Is this what you wanted? This is what you get. If you come to Benny's, then this is what we do to little fuckers like you." It then cut to the most twisted and gruesome thing I have ever seen. Sarah and Todd were burning alive as their screams began to pierce my eardrums that I could not take it anymore. I quickly ejected the tape and put the tapes back in the box. I refused to watch the fourth one because who knows what sick and twisted things were on it. As I turned off the TV and unplugged it, I took the box upstairs to the living room as I went into the dinner table where my work laptop is to go on the internet to search for some answers, to find out more about Benny and the creator so I could report what I just witnessed to the police. As I did research on the show, I discovered that the creator, Ronald Lewis, was a 55-year-old man that was registered as a sex offender. He was arrested back in 1989 for indecent exposure to a minor, but was later released in 1996, around the time that Playtime with Benny would have aired, for some unspecified reason. Apparently, he had been broadcasting the show from his cabin to lure children and do some horrific acts on them, such as sexual intercourse, rape, and even murder. I was completely sick just hearing this. How could he have done these things, and why? I heard the police had raided Ronald's cabin following the disappearance of Todd and Sarah Jenkins, who were the two children from the tapes, but Ronald was nowhere to be found. As I continued investigating, the phone began to ring. I answered the phone as nobody spoke except breathing, which sounded just like Ronald filming the corpse in the basement. Suddenly, there was a knocking on the door, which made me scream so loud. I go to look outside as I see Benny, in his oversized rabbit costume and makeup, standing across the street, looking right at me. The end.